From the InnerAction Media studio in Morgantown, welcome to the Positively West Virginia podcast, presented by Freedom Kia of Morgantown. I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Today we've got a very special episode of the podcast devoted to the technology business sector in West Virginia. And we're going to be visiting live in the studio with two key leaders of Trilogy Innovations, Brandon Downey, he's the president and CEO, and Randy Cottle, the COO of Trilogy Innovations. They're based in Bridgeport, West Virginia, and they're the founders of the inaugural Tech Yeah conference by Trilogy Innovations. It's going to be in Fairmont this year, August 23rd. So we're going to be talking about that. Brandon and Randy, thanks for being on the show today, guys.
Thank you.
Hey,
Jim.
thanks for having us. We're definitely happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you with us live in the studio. I'm looking forward to learning about your vision for Tech Yeah, the conference, coming up August 23rd in Fairmont. And also, I want to learn about Trilogy Innovations and how you guys are reshaping, along with other tech companies, the West Virginia economy. So I'm looking forward to that. Guys, again, thanks for being with us. So, Randy, Brandon, take a few minutes and let us know about Tech Yeah. Let's talk about what the conference is and who it's intended for first. Maybe, Randy, we'll start with you, Randy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a combination of bringing together, government agencies, service integrators that take vendor software and integrate it within their services. But we've also included academic universities, as well as even politicians has now gotten involved because how it started out is we were actually having a conversation about raising our voice and raising our brand. A lot of times we see within the state people celebrating other companies coming from out of the state, in the state, which is great. We want to encourage more companies, but they don't really focus as much on companies that are here and from here and kind of grown up. Yeah. So we were just trying to start with a Raise Your Voice initiative that we did internally, but then it kind of blew up after that. We started talking with Jim Estep from the High Technology Consortium, and what they were doing with Operation Move, and then it just kind of blew up from there. Yeah,
absolutely. Brandon, it sounds like it's the intersection of technology and government.
It really is. It really is. It's kind of an interesting thing, just to piggyback with what Randy was saying. It was, how do we shine that spotlight on everything that's good in West Virginia? I mean, we've all been out throughout the state, the United States, out of country even. And there's always this stereotype, this stigma, if you will. And what happens is people don't realize the things that people are doing in West Virginia, right? There's a lot of great companies, technology-based companies, that focus on trying to increase the economic diversity in West Virginia. So what we've ultimately done, it was like, hey, Randy, what do we need to do? It's like, we want to be one of those companies. And then it's like, you know what? It's our fault. Right now it's our fault. It's like, we have to make Trilogy known in order for someone to take a look at the capabilities that we have. And not just what we have, but everyone else that does the exact same thing that we do. So it started off as, raise our voice internally, right? And then it actually, ballooned into this whole idea of shining this spotlight on West Virginia.
Yeah, because we always said you could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, they're not going to buy it. So we said, well, let's change that.
Well, I'm a marketing guy, and the top of every marketing funnel is awareness.
Right, awareness.
Really
absolutely.
It all
really
starts
is.
with that. You're exactly right. People can't do business with you unless they know you exist.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yep. Well, obviously the technology sector in that sector in West Virginia is growing. It's been a force for a number of years, but you guys and other companies coming into the mix is really important. But I think what's interesting too is that you've got this public sector, which is the government, obviously, and the private sector, which is you guys, the entrepreneurs, the capital, raisers, the risk takers, right? Yeah. And now you're really going to use this conference to showcase both of those entities, right? The public and the private sector. Brandon, maybe talk a little bit about
absolutely. What we want to do is, have people that are looking at capabilities across the spectrum here and realize that right under your nose you have fully qualified people, companies that have those skill sets that can actually help you. So it's just not just in governments, but also large corporations, people that are just looking at transforming their enterprise, their IT footprint, and they're looking for capability of doing so. there are a ton of companies here in West Virginia that are doing that. I mean, across the full spectrum. It's, companies that are specializing in cloud, cybersecurity, the big words, the big areas of concern these days. And you're also taking a look at artificial intelligence, trying to figure out ways to enhance their own business model by leveraging these technologies. And we have, we're going to hammer on it every single time within this podcast of saying that we have that capability.
Yeah. What are some of the federal agencies that are going to be, coming to this conference next week?
So we have the FBI, NOAA, Department of Energy here in NETL. Air Force is supposed to be here, Department of Defense for the Army. We reached out to DHS, FEMA, the VA. So we've really tried to get the message out there to recruit more government agencies into this area, because that's how it kind of ballooned up. We started out with economic diversity, right? And we did a play off the hashtag Yes West Virginia, because a lot of people didn't even know NOAA was in Fairmont, for example, and they'd say yes in West Virginia, or
they see these big satellite dishes along the interstate, but,
but
there's so much more tucked in, right?
Right, exactly.
That people don't see.
They don't.
Yeah. So we actually played off of that diversity, and that's why it's called Tech right? We're playing off the hashtag Yes West Virginia, to do economic development.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think of FBI, FBI is kind of personal with me, because my daughter and my son-in-law both work for the FBI in Harrison County, and that's a major employer. But there's lots of companies that contract, right? Companies like Trilogy that are out there doing defense security contracts and so forth. Brandon, how important is the relationship between these government entities and private business like Trilogy?
It's really, really important. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, capability. We have to know that capability is out there, especially to keep some of those jobs here. Part of the Tech conference is not just spotlighting, but also, letting them know that there are opportunities for people to continue their professional career here in West Virginia. It's like we do a great job pulling people in, but the one thing that we have to do is make sure we keep people here, right? People leaving the state at a significant rate.
It's a massive problem.
It's a big problem. And the equation to diversify is rather complex. It's not just one thing; it's multiple things. But what we need to do is make sure that government agencies know those small businesses, and the small businesses can also offer their capabilities to the large system integrators, to governments, and so forth. The whole idea is just to network, right? It's to get out there, talk about your capability. Opportunities are out there. We just have to make sure that we can create them and keep them here.
It's funny that you mentioned the word network, because I'm thinking in my mind as you're talking about this, this is a lot of work. And there's two parts of that word, network, net, and work. And it actually requires effort, right? So I love what you guys are doing. So I remember years ago, probably back in the late 90s, maybe the early 2000s, there was a thing called partnering to win, or something
teaming
like
that.
Teaming to win.
Yes.
Is this kind of a spin-off of that, maybe a little bit?
It's actually funny that you say that, because when we were having that conversation about raising our voice and what are we going to do, I was like, you remember those old teaming to wins that they used to have? I said, we should try to revive that. So, and Brandon's like, that's what we got to do. We got to start this internal Raise Your Voice initiative. So as soon as we got off the phone, I immediately called Jim Estep and said, hey, would it be okay if we had the old ISR building, the Robert Mollohan Research Center, to throw this tech conference to try to get more government agencies here? And he's like, absolutely. Our next call was to Frank Vitale to say, hey, buddy, we're planning on doing a conference, right? Because, a lot of people talk about doing this stuff, but, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? But you got to be taking action to make stuff happen.
Exactly.
Right?
And there's a lot of talk that happens a lot of times, but the people like you guys that step forward and take action, it makes a big difference. That's significance. Making a difference.
And one thing that we noticed was people were hungry.
They were very hungry.
People, the same outfits, the same people that help, foster Teaming to Win, DINET. they're part of all the communities that we put together to actually help organize this Tech Yeah event. Yeah. So it's like we were absolutely amazed by the people calling. It's like, hey, listen, can we help? How can we help? What can we do?
Exactly.
So it's it's just that's one testament about West Virginia. Is like you mentioned, network.
Yep.
Everyone here is willing to jump in and do something, right? Not talk about it. Let's get it done.
I love it. Well, if folks are listening out there right now and they're like, "Hey, Tech, I want to come to this thing," well, it's too late,
right?
Unfortunately, because you guys are sold out already. But obviously, like I mentioned a couple of times, it's August 23rd coming up. Now, you guys do have a networking social hour coming up on that Monday, the night before the 22nd, and that's going to be at the Marriott, right? The Waterfront Marriott here in Morgantown, but the conference will be in Fairmont on the 23rd. It's an all-day thing, but in the case that somebody wants to come and wants to see what's going on, you guys are doing a live stream of the event.
Yes,
and that's pretty amazing. So that'll be available. We'll put links to the podcast where folks can actually tune into that, but it's everywhere you can find this podcast. So it'll be on Positively West Virginia's live stream, InnerAction Media, as well as all of the WV News Network
which
live
is
stream events.
Awesome.
So
we're really happy and excited about that.
Out there. We're going to be able to shine a light on your sponsors and stuff like that. You guys do have some sponsors for this too. You want to mention those too?
Yeah, I was going to say, so again, this is the inaugural, right?
Yes,
so the plan is to continue doing this, whether next year it's in Charleston or Huntington or Martinsburg or wherever.
I like that idea,
again, to continue to shine that spotlight from a federal level on all the great things that's happening here. And with that being said, a lot of times you get these federal agencies coming in here, and then, like I said, we have our small businesses, but these large vendors like the Google Clouds, AWS, Microsoft, Red Hat, IBM, all these major corporations, all their software is being used by these government agencies, right?
That's awesome.
So what we've done is try to invite them here, but we talk about the Silicon Valley out in California. We always say we're the Silicon Mountains between Clarksburg and Morgantown, because all the government agencies here that's doing stuff from a tech perspective, and then you have the Googles and the AWSs that come out here and look at all the stuff that's invested and say, hey, why aren't we setting up our facility here too to actually help with all this?
Yeah, right there in the I-79 high technology corridor.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So maybe you guys can share a little bit of insight. Some of the guest speakers that you're going to have.
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be great.
You
got a powerhouse lineup.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. We started out with that because we were like, how are we going to draw these people in, right? So first we have Brian Griffith. He's the Deputy Assistant Director for the FBI. He actually used to work in that old ISR building before the High Technology Foundation took it over.
Yeah. That's the CGIS division, which is housed right here in West Virginia, right?
Yeah, right there in Clarksburg.
That's great.
We have Frank Indiviglio. Hopefully I got his name right there.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. He is actually the CTO of NOAA. He'll be going on right after Jim Estep, the CEO of the High Technology Foundation, after he talks about Opportunity Move and why NOAA chose to actually do their data center here. We have Ken Rim. He is the Assistant Director for NASA. And we also have, I believe it's Kevin Walters from Mantech, and
Brian Anderson, Dr. Brian Anderson.
Yes, and of course we cannot forget
NETL.
here in Morgantown, the Department of Energy Director, Dr. Brian Anderson.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
Which is really, he was actually our first, and he's the one that made all the dominoes kind of start falling into place. So
of course, that's energy and energy technology is a big topic of conversation in the United States right now.
Yes,
absolutely.
A lot of it's happening right here. And of course, you've got Gail Manchin will be making a presentation as well.
Yeah, so she is the federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. She is our keynote that will be speaking in the afternoon.
That's great.
And then Joe Manchin will actually be following up after her to speak as well. So we're very happy to have all those folks here. And again, especially with politicians, you never know if they're like, yeah, we'll put it on on our calendar, but it's always at the last minute before they say, "Yeah, I can make it." Right?
I have a vote,
So
I can't be there.
and it probably helps, having his wife, which we were really happy to have Gail, because she's doing a wonderful things for the Appalachian region, because it's not just West Virginia, it's West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, all the way down through the Carolinas, right? So they're bringing in a lot of federal money.
Yeah, the ARC brings a lot of clout and funding for not only nonprofits but other activities that are happening throughout West Virginia, and like you said, Randy, all over Appalachia. So I think that's fantastic. So again, that's the inaugural Tech Yeah Conference, staying ahead of the industry. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
As I said, it was the intersection of technology companies and government agencies. It's going to be a great event, August 23rd in Fairmont. Now, guys, I want to shift gears, unless you have anything else to mention on Tech Yeah, because I think we covered it pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, I'm inspired. I can't wait for the event.
I do have one other thing. We will be having podcasts in the afternoon as well.
That's right.
So we have the Reboot Something podcast that Trilogy hosts, and of course this podcast. We can't forget this podcast.
We'll be
Positively West Virginia.
Absolutely.
So again, we're trying to shine the spotlight on small business and what's happening, so they'll get to talk about their core capabilities and that kind of stuff.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait till next week, guys. So thank you for that, and thanks for what you're doing on that. Now I want to talk a little bit about Trilogy Innovations, because I love your company. I love what you guys are doing. I've watched you, and it's just neat seeing a lot of you're hiring like crazy. Got a great team down there out of Bridgeport. I want you guys to tell the audience a little bit about Trilogy, maybe your 30-second pitch, and I'll start with Brandon, and then Randy, you can fill in as well.
Trilogy Innovations, we're a minority-owned systems software engineering firm, specializes in many different aspects of technology, including the ones that we talked about for Tech Yeah, cloud, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, custom software development, and so forth. Have a string of customers across not just public but also private. We leverage the technologies that we go out and sell to our government agencies, to our large corporate partners. Awesome. So we're also highly invested in our workforce. We spend a lot. We actually talk a lot when it comes to, hey, listen, there is such thing as skill set atrophy. We, from a Trilogy perspective, we make sure that from a professional development aspect, that they stay apprised of all the latest technology. We actually have a rich set of partnerships, especially when it comes to corporate America. We hitch our wagons to them only because these are the ones that are introducing emerging technologies into the marketplace. Our thing is they're doing that because of some need, and we want our people to be in front of that need as well.
You can only solve a problem if you're equipped, right?
Absolutely. This is to basically make sure that toolbox is fully, stocked of possibilities, right? We offer the best solutions for our customers. We don't try to force them into one solution. We give them the solution that best fits their needs at that particular time.
Right.
In order to do so, we have to have that capability in all of our employees, not just one or two, but every single one.
I love it, Randy.
And that's even actually ingrained into our logo. The reason why our logo kind of looks like a saw blade is because we do cutting edge software, right? Because we work with all these vendors. We do a lot of value add resale of all these different types of softwares. So we make sure that we get our folks trained up on that. So we have a hashtag on all of our social media that Trilogy pays for training and certs. And not only do we pay for that, but then we celebrate our folks whenever they do get certified. Because the way everybody thinks we're a little crazy about that, because they're like, oh, they'll get their certs and leave. But, treat them good enough. If you treat them good enough, they don't want to go anywhere. So train them good enough to leave, but treat them good enough that they want to stay. And that's kind of the mentality we've taken.
I love that mindset. Guys, I'm going to take a quick break just to mention our sponsors for Positively West Virginia and this podcast, and they include Freedom Kia of Morgantown, the State Journal, WVNews.com, and InnerAction Media. The support we receive from these West Virginia companies allow us to highlight the incredible things happening in business throughout the great state of West Virginia, like the Tech Yeah Conference, the inaugural coming up August 23rd, and Trilogy Innovations based out of Bridgeport, West Virginia. We're going to take a quick break, and we will join you right back in a few seconds. Thanks.
Summer's here and adventure awaits. It's time to hit the road with a brand new Kia from Freedom Kia Morgantown. Whether you're traveling near or far, you'll love the journey in the 2022 Kia Sorento, starting at just $30,885. And all month long, Freedom Kia is donating $100 for every vehicle sold to WVU Children's Hospital. When adventure calls, don't wait. Head to Freedom Kia right off of exit 153 on I-79 in Morgantown, or visit us at freedomkia.net.
And we're back. We're talking today, our guests are Brandon Downey, he's the president and CEO, and Randy Cottle, COO of Trilogy Innovations. And they're also the founders of the Tech Yeah conference that's coming up August 23rd in Fairmont, West Virginia. Guys, I want to jump right back into it. I love Trilogy and what you guys are talking about. It sounds amazing what you're doing. How long have you been in business now?
So we were incorporated in 2010.
Wow.
So 2010, we worked on several large projects, myself, Randy. We really did not get started until 2015, where we actually helped another local company win a subcontract with the FBI.
Nice.
So that was our big start.
That was kind of your coming out almost.
That was definitely coming out, and was also a learning process. It's like, you sit and you work on, the development aspect, the business side of it.
You got to be careful what you wish for and pray for, right?
That's a very true statement.
Right.
It's just, finding that initial momentum. That was the key, that momentum, and then basically latching onto it so it doesn't go anywhere, and you actually start thinking about various ways to continue it. That's where this guy, his motor is rather high, when it comes to
always running.
I'll
sales pitch you at a grocery store. I don't care.
Right. So interesting plug with this guy. I remember we had a networking event. This was back in January, February time frame.
Yeah. And
we were just talking. I mean, Randy and I typically talk to each other 20 times a day, and that's no exaggeration.
Ask our wives.
Exactly. So it's like, I remember saying, it's like, hey, listen, we need to do something, right? And he was like, well, they're always having these networking events in the DC metro area. We don't have those here. Right. We just don't have that collection of sharing of ideas, opportunities among the small businesses.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to do that. I'm not joking with you. I think I hung up and he got on the call and got
Bartini.
Absolutely got everything arranged.
BDWV.
That's what you get.
That's what we did. We did a BDWV event, and we, and again, COVID was still kind of more intense back then. But we ended up having 40 different people show up, more than expected, and they were driving in from the Virginia, Maryland area, and then
small space.
Small
shoulder
space.
to shoulder, but that just showed you how hungry people were to get out, but also socialize.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking, just listening to you talk, Brandon, about starting the company in 2010 and really getting that first, that big wind in your sail in 2015. I always talk about, it's very easy to start a company, right? And I encourage people. I love entrepreneurs. I love risk takers. Anybody can start a company. You can get online this evening and start your company, right?
Right.
But to grow something over the long haul, man, it's hard work.
That's a lot of work.
Right.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. I would like to just get your thoughts on being an entrepreneur and what that's like.
It's definitely different from my training, like from school to leading large government technology contracts, opportunities, things of that nature. And then this guy chirping in my ear talking about,
I was business management. He was computer science.
It's like, we need to start this company. We need to start this company.
Perfect blend, really.
It really
I always
is,
say
really.
that he was my first customer because, he was a software engineer, and I went to I went to one of those meetings. They were talking about the 8A program and all that kind of stuff at the technology park, and I came back and I was like, dude, we need to start our own company, and here's why, right? Wow. So it took like a year and a half to convince him, hey, we got to do this.
Mind you, it's every day.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Once I get something in my head, like he said, like I act on it immediately.
Like once a month. It was every day.
No, I act on stuff immediately, right?
Well, I love the fact that you guys are both West Virginia guys too. I mean,
absolutely.
You grew up in Charlestown, Elkins.
Elkins,
right?
yep.
I mean, and here you are starting a company and flourishing and hiring people and growing. And I think that's just a wonderful success.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about that. Maybe if you're thinking about like a young person who's sitting out there going, man, I always wanted to do something, whether it's a blue collar job, like starting a mechanic shop or a tech company. What kind of advice would you give to?
I think the biggest one is don't fear trying, right? It's like you're never going to get it 100% correct, right? You're going to get it enough there to see the success. People, that's all they see is the success, the positive aspects of it. But you also have that work on the back end. The second thing is surround yourself with people that understand various aspects of it. Not one person is a master or an expert of every single aspect of business.
It's impossible.
It's really impossible. You have to surround yourself by people that you trust. And that comes with networking. I mean, our entire leadership team are people that we work with through for several decades now. It's funny. I was thinking about that today. Decades now. You believe that? Decades.
Oh, yeah.
So we've always had that short list. We had different aspects that we wanted to grow when we needed to grow it. And then we put together a roadmap, essentially. This is what we need to do, when we need to do it. These are the people we need to bring on to actually help be successful in that particular aspect.
And anybody can do it. I always tell this story. I actually grew up in a 2-bedroom trailer, and I had 3 brothers. We had bunk beds pushed together in one room. Like, it doesn't matter what your background is or where you came from. It's putting in the work, making sure that you're doing the networking, and don't be afraid to fail. You know who makes mistakes? Millionaires. Millionaires make mistakes because they're out there doing it. A lot of people get research atrophy. I don't think I can do that because I need to know every aspect. No, you don't. You have other people that you're hired to do that.
Absolutely. It kind of reminds me of the old saying, ready, fire, aim.
Right.
So you fire and then you figure it out. You got to take those. And I always talk, especially with young people, they're thinking about starting a business. I said, a lot of times you don't have to take a giant leap. You just take a step.
Just take a step.
Take one step, and then you take another step, and then take another step after that, right? Next thing you know, you're a mile down the road.
Exactly.
Right? As opposed to just being fearful, right? And today, especially with technology, you guys are in the tech space. With technology, you could do a lot of cool things, even in your spare time, right? Instead of sitting down and watching 3 hours of TV.
Yes.
Just work on your business plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Take a couple.
And that's true for anything. I mean, with our interns, I had the pleasure of working with them every day. And that's cool. One of the things that I always told them. It's like the one thing about us in the organization, not just from professional development, we also leverage that and we instill this program within our interns, right? So we train them, give them practical experience, but we also give them professional development experience too. We coupled them with a mentor that specializes in the area that they're thinking about going into. So it's not just provide advice, but professional career advice, right? This is what I want to do. This is what you need to do in order to be successful. But the one thing, I tell them, it's, you're not always going to learn everything you need to learn in school. It's like that's where after hours, that's where the grind starts.
Well, I love that. And so, Brandon, just from my perspective, and make sure I'm on right track on this, but I would think like if you're going to get a computer science degree, by the time you graduate, a lot of that stuff's already obsolete, right? But you're learning how to learn.
Really.
You're learning how to get certified.
It really is. And the one thing, I spoke to a panel of kids here a couple of months ago, and the one thing I told them to focus on is communication is one. Don't get caught up in the latest tech trend. If you're in this game long enough, what's old is new again, right? We know that.
Right.
But you need to understand the fundamentals. If you understand the fundamentals, that'll actually help you in your professional career because now you have experience and context to go back to. That's what we're trying to build. Yeah. It's the basics. Yeah. You'll trust me. One programming language, 2 programming languages, I can't even tell you the number of programming languages out there today, and every single one of them is good at doing something else, right? Someone is always trying to sell
the fundamentals, though,
it's
are
the
there,
fundamentals, right? It's
I get that. It's like I own a marketing company, and very similar. The basics. The fundamentals of marketing are never going to change. Right? Solving a problem, telling a story, making connection, not just communicating. Right. Mm-hmm. But the way we do it these days, I mean. We do a lot of video production. I don't even know how to turn the cameras on, but I have great people that know how to do it all, right? I understand the fundamentals of the story and connection. So it's kind of the same thing. Two different industries, but the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we're software engineers by trade. Like, we both went back, got our master's in software engineering, but we've applied that even to our business, because even with agile development, you do a sprint, you figure out what's working, what's not. We do that all the time with lessons learned, right? Yeah. Like, all right, we review the process, what worked and what didn't, and how can we get better next time. So it's that constant refinement that makes you more streamlined. We used to joke around and say we want to be like the Chick-fil-A of the IT industry, because they can get the process in, but then it's always with a smile and, my pleasure, right?
Exactly.
So, and then that sticks with you. So if you work with someone, they're responsive, they get back to you, and, they're genuinely happy to talk to, then...
Well, you bring up a good point, Randy, because I've been saying for a while now, maybe a couple of years, and it's definitely exacerbated during the pandemic. It's my contention that to be successful in anything that you're doing in business right now, if you just do the basics, that's considered extraordinary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The stuff that you're talking about.
I know. Yeah, the basics is, yes.
People we all see it, whether we're in a restaurant or dealing, whatever, online shopping.
Yeah.
If you're not... if you're not doing the basic stuff, you're just going to be passed on by somebody else. So it's I think it's kind of a neat time to be in business right now, because if you just stick to the basic stuff, the stuff that you guys are talking about, you could be extraordinarily successful.
Right. No,
agreed. Thought on that.
No, that's 100% correct. Yeah. Simple things like, we capture in business processes, we have our business process library. Like Randy said, we're in constant refinement mode, right? And you have to
little tweaks here and there.
Little tweaks, but you also have to hold that mirror up to yourself, right? And it's not always the positive side of business. Everyone sees that, but it's like, what are you going to do about those things that are not going well, right? Are you capable of self-inspection? Are you actually able to look at yourself and say, hey, listen, these things aren't going right? And it's not an ego thing, right? It's like it's you truth. Want to be the most efficient at doing something as humanly possible. In order to do that, you have to take a look at yourself. You have to take a look at the team. You have to be able to say, this is working, this is not working. How do we improve upon it, right?
Effective communicators, like just getting an email and just responding back, received or thank you or anything like that. Just those little things. Again, with Chick-fil-A, it's always my pleasure. They say that. But if you send somebody an email and you think it goes into the abyss and you don't hear from them, are you going to be thinking about them when stuff comes up? So just saying thank you, received, and just those little short emails back to let people know that you are communicating with them.
I don't have an
answer goes a long way.
Right,
correct,
second, but I'm on it.
I'm on it,
as soon as I can.
Let them know.
That's great. Yeah, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people that Dr. Stephen Covey wrote was be proactive. And that's so true, right? If you just just be proactive. Don't wait and have to explain yourself. Just step out. And do that. I think that's great.
And I think to your point, that's kind of innately some of those traits is just how we've operated. And then we read books and do stuff like that, and it just kind of validates some of the steps and strategies that we've taken.
When I have, I'm a student of leadership, and when I have an audience like you guys, I want to learn from you guys. So I would like to talk a little bit about leadership, because obviously you guys are leading a company, you're leading people, you're leading an industry right here in West Virginia. Brandon, what would you say is one of the most important leadership traits right now?
Empathy. It's one thing that, that we as a society have gotten away from. It's like trying to understand someone else's position, see it through their eyes. You can come up with a much better solution to a problem if you can actually understand it from multiple perspectives, right? And I think, even looking at the divisiveness, even within the U.S. today, and I think if we just were able to sit down and talk and basically understand it from someone else's, from someone else's lens, if you will, I think we'll be much better off, right? So empathy is one of the biggest ones.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Divided we fall, right?
Yeah. Randy, what would you say
United we
is one of
stand.
the most important attributes of a successful leader right now?
I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but just being able to communicate and doing that networking, in trusting your people, really. We always say that we hire smart people for them to tell us what to do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And, having that trust and building up a team of people that you can trust is true leadership. Like if you're trying to micromanage people or saying, well, I want you to do this or I want you to do that, that shuts people down. Where if you say us and we and try to include those people, it's amazing all the different ideas that they come up with, and then you kind of shape and mold, and then that becomes your standard way of operating.
Yeah, I like that, and it kind of goes hand in hand with empathy, right? Because it's my contention that people, especially the people that you're leading, they want to be heard.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
That's a powerful word.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to be heard. Right.
You need to empower the people that you work for.
Yes, statements close the mind and questions open the mind,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
great.
and
That's great
it's
way
all
to
these
look at
little
it,
sayings, like even how do you need an elephant and all these,
Yeah.
all those are based on this foundation of simple principles, and repeating them over and over again. Even with the Army, I know that's what they do to kind of build up a team, right? They have these chants and things that they're doing, but those little sayings actually do have meaning and get people to come together.
Yeah, that's good stuff, guys. I'm curious. In business, what would you like your legacies to be?
Honestly, I mean, as we said before, born, raised, and educated in West Virginia. And I think, one of the ultimate legacies, and I don't want to speak for Randy, but
I'm coming to you.
right,
Yeah,
he's coming
right.
to you. I figured as
exactly,
much. I figured as much. But, honestly, we're not a state full of people, right? I think we're 1.7, 1.8 million people. The one thing that we want to do is leave our mark by increasing the opportunities that people have within the state. But not only that, help mold some of those minds, those young minds out there today, letting them know that there's always channels to take or routes to take when it comes to entrepreneurship, technology, and so forth. I think, diversifying the industries today, solidifying some of those that we have today. I think that would be the ultimate legacy.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Randy?
Well, and again, both Brandon and myself come from humble backgrounds and beginnings. So as we continue to go up the ladder, it's pulling the next guy up, right? And doing that give back. Like we actually have a nonprofit organization, the CHARLES ROBERT PINKERTON Foundation, and all the money that's going into there is to actually help with STEM programs, help give scholarships, and help pull up that next guy. So our legacy, whether it's our names or on it or whatever, we don't really care. It's just more about helping make sure that we're pulling the next guy up.
Yeah,
or lady. Sorry.
It seems like it seems like you guys are really trying to, in some sense, cast a vision for young people of what could be and what should be here.
Right.
You don't have to leave. You don't have to go to Charlotte or Austin or Chicago.
That's just it.
Stay
Right.
here.
In fact, come back.
Come back.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
expatriate. Repatriate.
Right.
Come back and add to what's going on, because I'm of the mindset that it's pretty easy to go to Austin, Texas, and make it make a pretty good living, have a good home, and but you're just a cog in a wheel,
Right.
You come to West Virginia, you stay here. It might be a little bit more tough to make it, but man, you can make an impact just like you guys are doing.
Big impact.
Absolutely.
Right.
You guys could have left and done this in Washington, D.C., but you're doing it right here in West Virginia.
Well, in fact, 1/8 of our employees actually moved back. Our Vice President of Business Operations, Shane Powers, was part of the Ascend West Virginia program. He was working for a big biometric company.
Is that right?
He moved back here,
wow.
and then 3 months later, he saw what we were doing. He wanted to join us, both him and his wife. So
That's amazing.
That's
a great
he was
success
actually
story.
featured on Good Morning America with Brad Smith and all the initiatives that he's doing.
Yeah.
But it shows that having these initiatives like Ascend and like some of these programs are working. Like they're recruiting our people back here. And again, those tax dollars are coming here. The most important thing, especially with a remote standpoint, you could live out in California and have to make $350,000 for an 800 square foot apartment, or you could do that work remotely here. And for that kind of money, have an 8,000 square foot house. But again, more importantly, the tax dollars are coming back to our state to help our people.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to do.
I love that. It's great stuff. I got to ask you, and I'm going to ask both you guys, what's one book or even a podcast you'd recommend for aspiring business owners or entrepreneurs?
Oh man, that's a
put you on the spot. I'll come back to
yeah,
Randy.
yeah.
I'll go to Randy first.
It's about time.
Exactly, put you on the spot. It's funny because I've been reading like Rich Dad Poor Dad and
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki. I've learned a lot from him. I would call Brandon. I'm like, and that's the other thing. Growing up, and I didn't really learn in college till after the fact all the different ways there is to make money and utilize your money. And then reading books like that, and I'm like, hey man, did you know we could be doing this with life insurance, like universal life insurance, and how that works? Like, and he's like, that sounds illegal, right?
Do you listen to the Rich Dad radio show on podcast?
No,
yeah, he's Robert Kiyosaki. He's out there a little bit these days. But.
Oh yeah, he's getting unfortunately a little bit more and more out there.
He's great though. I listen to him all the time. That's a good one. We'll make sure that
those are fundamentals though.
Yeah,
those
are
fundamentals.
Things, right?
Brandon, I'll come back to you.
Come back to me. So, a lot of leadership books. That's been my biggest push. Right.
Yeah. Who's one of your favorite authors, subject matter experts?
There's a couple of them here. Trying to think of a good one.
I love John Maxwell. Right. I'm a student of John Maxwell.
Yeah, so I've had read that. Right. So John is a good one. I'm trying to.
Patrick Lencioni is another good leadership guru. I had an opportunity. I had a client for a number of years that was on the John Maxwell team and actually taught from the stage sales and marketing.
Oh, nice.
He was one of my clients, and I would support him and got to have meet John Maxwell, shoot video with him, and have dinner with him and things of that nature. Yeah,
pretty exciting.
It was pretty cool stuff, and just to know his story.
Do you know Gary
Vaynerchuk?
Yes.
Gary
so Gary V. That's what I was going to say. So I actually follow Gary V a lot, and a lot of the same principles. The basic principles, like how you treat people and stuff like that. Some people might think he's a little bit out there too, but it's the compassion for people, right? And it's the building blocks and making sure that your employees are number one. Like if you're good to your employees and take care of them, then they take care of your customers, and it's reciprocal.
I always like Gary V's stuff. Now he's a little abrasive, and he
uses
some language.
Yeah, some language.
But man, I keep thinking, man, if I've had my company. We're getting ready to start our 12th year, and I keep thinking, man, if the marketing thing doesn't work out, I'm gonna go to the garage sale route. He buys a mug for 25 cents and sells it for like $99.
Right, exactly.
That's amazing. How does he do that? I don't know.
What kind of wizardry?
Exactly, guys. We've covered a lot in this interview, and I really appreciate your first of all coming in. I love what you're doing with the Tech Conference coming up August 23rd in Fairmont, and that's the inaugural, and I'm sure it's going to be an annual thing, judging by the sellout success that you had and the lineup you've got and the momentum you've got. I think that's great. But and I love what you're doing with Trilogy Innovations. You guys are leading a great company. You started it, back in 2010. Really got started in 2015 with a big contract, and now here you are in 2022, just rocking and rolling. And I love it. And I think I admire you guys really for what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about either the conference or Trilogy Innovations?
No, like you said, we did cover a lot.
Yeah,
definitely unpacked a lot.
Right.
I would say.
Randy, what's the best way for folks to learn about the Tech Conference?
So they can go to www.techyeahconference.com. It has all of our different sponsors that's on there, an event, and then just as soon as this event's over, we're going to go ahead and start for next year. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have a bigger venue next year to allow even more sponsors and booths and to be able to showcase their stuff.
Excellent. We'll make sure we have a link to that,
Yes,
that
I'll
website as well.
provide that.
Brandon, how do folks learn more about Trilogy Innovations?
Go to www.trilogyit.com.
Yeah,
right?
that's great. And they can learn about that. Maybe even get in touch with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brandon at trilogyit.com
And Randy at trilogyit.com.
Try to make it simple as
Yeah.
possible.
Well,
I love it.
that's a whole nother story about why it's Trilogy IT instead of
won't
Trilogy
unpack
Innovations. We won't unpack it.
Well, that's great. And we'll make sure we have links to all that stuff in the show notes and in social media as well. Guys, Randy, Brandon, it's been great to have you on the podcast. I really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
what you're
us.
doing.
Right.
Appreciate you
I'm
having us.
inspired by you guys, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Definitely will.
Absolutely.
All right.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia is brought to you by Freedom Kia of Morgantown, the State Journal, WV News, and InnerAction Media. As we continue on our journey to help share positive stories of companies and people doing amazing things all across the Mountain State, just like my friends Brandon Downey, who's the president and CEO, and Randy Cottle, the COO of Trilogy Innovations and the founders of the Tech Yeah Conference, I just want to express to you that our hope is that we hope that you are equipped and inspired by their story. Not only the story of Trilogy Innovations, but Tech Yeah, and just the fact that you can come together and put together a great conference that elevates and edifies and lifts up West Virginia companies and the people that are doing the work. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on the show, drop us a line on our website, positivelywv.com. We appreciate your comments, your positive reviews, and your words of encouragement along the way as well. Positively West Virginia is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can learn more about our mission of inspiring and equipping and encouraging small business owners, entrepreneurs, nonprofit and business leaders at positivelywv.com. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer, Mr. Hampton Hill, behind the controls today, until next time, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.